Welcome to SatNuts, the podcast. I'm your host, Drew Klein, VP of CCOM Satellite Systems. What is a SatNut? SatNuts are the shrewd, engaging characters from the space and SATCOM business. Yes, they do exist. This podcast is where we discuss past decisions, current markets, and future endeavors. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by CCOM Satellite Systems. CCOM is a pioneer and world leader in the mobile auto-pointing satellite antenna business. The company has sold more than 9,000 systems into over 100 countries. The product line includes vehicle-mounted driveaways, transportable case-based flyaways, backpack man-pack antennas, and fixed motorized products. All come with CCOM's proprietary iNet View controller system, which enables users to find broadband via satellite with just the push of a button. CCOM is also in late-stage development, partnered with the University of Waterloo, of a revolutionary Ka-band electronically steerable phased array antenna technology that has the potential to forever change the antenna business. The company is publicly traded on the Canadian Venture Exchange under the symbol CMI and on the US OTC under the symbol CYSNF. Visit the website at www.c-comsat.com. That's www.c-comsat.com. Welcome to episode 00002. This is the second podcast. We made it this far, so really there's no stopping us. I had a great pleasure to interview two of my friends, two awesome Mexicans in this industry. We have a strong kinship, me being a Canadian Jew and them being Mexicans living in the States, living in Mexico. Sergio Murrilo is co-founder and CEO of Red 52. Red 52 is a licensed public telecom network in Mexico. Jose Torres is the global sales director at Integrasys SA. A little bit about Sergio. He's been actively involved in assisting governments throughout the region in LATAM and the Caribbean in the development of their telecommunications projects. And he's a good friend of mine. And also Jose is now at Integrasys, where he's currently the global sales director. Jose has spent over 20 years in the satellite industry, and we've been friends since the very first time we met. And really enjoyed our conversation. We had stimulating and funny and just a great chat between two of the smarter, more sophisticated and fun-loving guys in the business. Give us some insight into LATAM, give us some insight into their business and how things are going. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy Sergio Murrilo from Red 52 and Jose Torres from Integrasys. Orale! How are you?
Hey, Bato!
How are you, boys? We are transponding right now. It's nice to have you on this podcast, and it's happy hour, so let's have a drink and catch up. Salud!
Hey, salud!
I thought you were gonna send the bottle. I haven't gotten it yet.
Stand by your mailbox, Sergio. We'll have something delivered in the next. I guess it's taking like Amazon. Even just to deliver anything now, it's taking Amazon something like 5 weeks. Is it the same where you guys are?
I don't know. I haven't ordered anything. I ordered something from eBay. I ordered some face masks, and they took my money and never sent the merchandise. So I guess that may be it. That may be what happened.
Sounds like an awesome deal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I think Amazon is, those guys are overwhelmed.
Yeah, it sounds like they're having some serious issues in terms of logistics and whatnot. So Jose, you and I were at the DC show last month, and Sergio, you missed it.
I did indeed, yes.
What happened?
I was in Costa Rica at the time. Don't know if I had told you before, but we have a facility there, a world-class data center and we were building a gateway for OneWeb.
Hey.
Up until recently, I guess hopefully they'll get some money and pick up where they left off. But yeah, during the show, I was down in Costa Rica. You ever been there?
Yeah, well, no, we were in Panama together. That's what I was gonna say. We were in Panama together, but I've never been to Costa Rica. In fact, my brother, when the Washington show was over, my older brother was about to take his family to Costa Rica for a week, but they shortly thereafter closed the Canadian border, so they made the decision to, avoid the trip, and probably a good idea because they would have had some difficulties getting back in. But
Yeah.
here it's beautiful. They call it the Switzerland of the Western Hemisphere. I don't know. Is it still like that?
It is. It is actually. If you can imagine a Mexico or Buenos Aires or a really nice Latin American city, but with no trash on the streets, no taco vendors on the sidewalks. It's very nice, actually. Everybody there has a very ecology mindset. So just everywhere you go, everybody you talk to, it's all about nature and the environment and preserving things. It's very refreshing. It's very refreshing. They have actually wonderful coffee.
What's going to happen with your gateway then? Is there any plan following this OneWeb implosion?
Well, we're hoping. We've got a wonderful location and world-class connectivity and a great data center. So we're hoping someone else will require a gateway in the area. We've reached out to SpaceX. We've reached out to Amazon. We also hear some rumors about some possible buyers for OneWeb's assets. Should that come about, well, they'll probably need gateways as well. But I mean, we do other things there as well too. We're hosting credit card processing for one of the major credit card companies. We've got a couple of banks in there.
Nice.
And it's a nice facility. We're going to try to promote it.
I'm sure it'll work out in the end. You were smart though not to go to the DC show. I think Jose and I were maybe a little bit stupid to not just go to the show, but then the day after they cancel the last day of the show, we decided to go out to a party, a bourbon party. And we spent the night there, and we had lots of lovely bourbons, and it was a fun event. But how did we not get sick?
I had heard that some of the host people got sick.
I heard this too, but I don't have any confirmation. Did you hear anything more about this, Jose?
Yeah, I think there some people got the virus, and the question is, we don't know from where they got it, but more likely will be from the show or from somewhere. That usually when you are in these public places is where you get this type of virus. So yeah, I mean, we were lucky because we were there. We spent most of the time on the show, and then this reception the last day, and I think we are lucky that we didn't get it.
Yeah, I think if our wives had anything to say, because that's one thing we all have in common, is that we all have Mexican wives, and so I think Sergio Esperanza was probably pretty adamant that you're staying in Costa Rica, and maybe Jose, my wife, and your wife weren't tough enough to get us to not go, because my wife was like, "What are you?" Even before we went, before it was kind of a little bit crazy. My wife was like, "Are you insane? Why are you going to this show, especially when a week before apparently there was COVID at the same convention center?"
Yeah. No, I mean, one of the things that happened to me, like, I mean, I'm local here in Washington D.C. So for me, it was like, okay, well, no problem. I'm local. I'll go. But yeah, I mean, I was wondering how many people we really are coming. I don't know. I mean, that was a question, but I saw. I mean, it was not 100% what usually is the show. It was maybe 50, 60%. I don't know. It was not the same.
Yeah,
So
it was definitely a disappointing show, but it was not for any reason that we didn't understand. I mean, we knew it was coming.
I have a question for you guys. You both had booths there. Um, Obviously the traffic was down. Probably, not that many prospects coming around. But did you see or did you guys practice social distancing during those days? On the show floor.
So from my perspective, I was elbow bumping and foot tapping everyone I could. Um, a few guys came in for a big hug, and that was really hard. It's really hard to not give guys or gals or whoever you
yeah,
want to see you haven't seen in a long time. It's hard to not give them a big hug or a handshake or whatever. But I also saw a lot of people saying "fuck it" and just giving handshakes. And it's not manly enough to do an elbow bump. It's you have to show them how tough you are, that you're not afraid to get the coronavirus or whatever. I don't know. I found it kind of silly. I find this whole thing to be a little bit silly, but I don't know, Jose. What do you think? Did you see the same thing?
yeah. I mean, when we had the show, I mean, I wasn't like too concerned. I mean, I was like, okay, well, there's a coronavirus out there, but I wasn't too concerned that he was going to be there. And obviously, I was trying to follow all the directions, the social distancing and things like that. But at that point, it was just the beginning. So we were not, I mean, we didn't know really, okay, should we do this? Should we just shake hands or not? But I mean, I was shaking hands with everybody. And even in the receptions that we had during the show, I mean, they have, everybody was, networking and everybody was talking to each other and everybody was eating and shaking hands. So, I mean, it
Like
was just,
now when you go to the grocery store, you see this invisible wall between people, right, of about 6 or 8 feet distance, standing in line. We definitely were not doing that at the satellite show.
Well,
no, it was not, still not, we were not really at the point that everybody like we are right now, which I was very, to be honest, I was very shocked that how things progress, particularly here in the United States, that, looking what happened in New York, it's like, oh my God, is this really happening? Because I mean, it was unbelievable.
How are you guys holding up at home? I know you're in Virginia, Jose, and Sergio, you're in Dallas. You normally are living in Mexico City, but so what are you guys doing? How's the family during this very strange situation, Jose?
Well, for me, has been, we need to, change the way we were, working, and kids obviously, cancel schools. They're doing the homeschooling, and things completely changed. So right now, I mean, we are getting used to this new routine, which, you work from home, kids, take these classes, online classes, and but kids are at home all day long, and sometimes, they're kids, they want to be playing. So like, oh my God, how you
Oh,
can
it's terrible.
control them, because they want to go out and play with the friends, neighbors, and like, hey, well, you got to keep your distance. So I mean, it's hard, it's been hard, and I know it's always, it's stressful, because I mean, you're working at the same time, you're watching the news, or reading the news, and what's happening around the world is like, oh my, this is a very stressful situation.
And Sergio, your boys are in their what, late early 20s, right? So
yeah,
they're
they're college kids. I guess it's probably in that sense it's a little bit easier than Jose's, which are younger. I just have to keep the refrigerator stocked with beer to keep them entertained.
Yeah, but you can't bring in any girls for them. So that's where the trouble lies for like my son Ben, who's just turning 16 this week. He's supposed to go on his first driver's lessons this week. I mean, for kids who are in their teens or in their early 20s, when they're really supposed to be out there living their lives, this is the worst. This is
Oh,
like life in the time of COVID type awful. And for kids who are like my youngest son is 8, so he doesn't give a shit. For him, he talks about it, but he doesn't really care. He doesn't really see the impact. I guess Jose, your kids are about that age too, right?
Yeah, it's 9 and 13.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
See,
mean, one of the things that my son, I mean, he loves video games, so now he's like the master on video games.
That's bad. We don't. We try to discourage. My wife is putting together, these school days, for our kids. Even Ben, who's 16, he's got math and computer science, and try to encourage them to be outside as much as possible. But it's really hard, man. It's really hard to keep them active and going, and this is really rough on the teenage version of them.
well, sometimes you got to think that things happen for a reason. I came to Dallas to spend a weekend with my mom and dad. They're getting on in age, and I got stuck here. The day after I arrived, they had the stay-at-home order. So I've gotten to spend some time very closely with my parents, which I haven't had an opportunity to do that in many years, and that has been nice.
Mm.
My kids also, they're usually away at school, and we're able to be together. And we haven't really killed each other yet, but there have been a few instances where the cabin fever is kind of set in.
My hygiene has taken a tumble. Like I'm exercising as often as I can, but and actually I'm going into the office now. I've been going to the office for the last 2 weeks because we're considered an essential business, so we're all in the office. But I'm exercising as much as possible. But when I was at home, shaving, teeth brushing, eating on a regular, eating on a regular schedule, that all went to the window, and that's really hard to when you're home all day. I mean, it's horrible. It's really not a good place to be trapped. I mean, it's better than most, but you can get that cabin fever.
I've actually gotten or have done a lot more video conferences than before. Before we just maybe do audio only calls and things like that, but I've gotten much more into video conferences. And you're right, Drew. You put on a nice dress shirt, you comb your hair back, get ready for the video conference, but you're in your boxer shorts, just with the dress shirt on top.
That's the old trick. I know Jose pulls that trick all the time.
Well, this is one of the things that we travel a lot. Since we are in this global industry, we travel different places. So sometimes you work out of a hotel room or a restaurant or whatever you are. But yeah, you're right. I mean, when you're stuck at home, 24 hours is like, wow. I don't know. You just want to get away, go somewhere.
It's really hard, because both, all three of us and pretty much, most of the people in the sales side of our business, we spend so much time on the road. Like you said, living in hotels, eating out at restaurants, and we're gone sometimes, 2 weeks, a month, or something to that effect. So getting used to this reality, which is not, look, it's not terrible to stay home. It's bad under these conditions, but also, I miss traveling. I like being out on the road. I like visiting my customers. I like going to new places, and I'm sure you guys do too.
Oh yeah, I completely with you. I mean, like you said, I mean, it's great to be home, but it comes to the point that when you start missing, traveling, meeting face to face with customers, face to face with colleagues, and and you miss that. I mean, obviously, you do the video conferencing, with everybody's doing it these days. You know, the WebEx, the Zoom, the Skype, and all of that. But it's different.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how we're going to maintain our elite level on the frequent flyer programs when we're stuck at home.
Believe me, I have already asked that question of Air Canada. Apparently they're extending it, which is very kind of them, all the way till December 2021. But my question is anybody still gonna, when's the next trade show that we are going to see each other at, is my question. Is it going to be IBC? Is it going to be Oilcom? Is it going to be, where do we, if we had to guess today, where are we going to see each other next?
I mean, it seems like IBC is still on. They haven't canceled IBC, but I don't know. It's September, so I don't know. It's a tough call. I mean, maybe it will be Allcom.
Well, you're right. We all miss traveling. That's just part of our fabric, and I guess probably part of the reason that we all do our jobs as well as we do. But gosh, I don't know. I'm a little nervous about going into an airport anytime soon.
So what's your plan, Sergio, for getting back into Mexico? Have you looked into it? Like, is there a timeline for you, or some kind of schedule that they're asking you to?
I just out of curiosity, I've been looking. There used to be, like, I don't know, 15 flights a day into Mexico out of DFW. And now it's down to one. And on other airlines, you got to go through Detroit, or you got to go through Atlanta or DC even to get where you're going. So it's good for racking up points, but it's an all-day affair and another airport that you have to go through. So it's difficult. I mean, I'd almost rather just rent a car and drive down.
Sure. And you could do that, reverse coyote yourself, right?
Yeah.
Well, but you know what is happening? Like, for example, as you know, this coronavirus has been like a wave. Started in China and then moved to Europe, and then Europe came to United States, and now it's spreading everywhere. Now, I believe Mexico is kind of like the peak time will be maybe 2 months from now. That's what they're talking about. So who knows? Maybe Sergio's, I don't know if you're going to be able to go back to Mexico very soon.
I'm stuck here for a while. I mean, the way I'm seeing it right now, the most optimistic would be a month out from now. And that's pretty iffy.
This podcast is brought to you by Red 52. Red 52 is a licensed public telecommunications network in Mexico, operating their teleport in Mexico City, providing full services for video, data, voice, and internet connectivity to government and private sector customers. Red 52 delivers fast, affordable broadband connectivity to rural and remote areas across Mexico, Latin America, and the Caribbean, with satellite and fixed wireless networks. With Red 52 services, your business will have access to unsurpassed high-speed broadband, no matter how remote your location. For more information, please visit www.red52.com. That's www.red2.com. This podcast is also brought to you by Integrasys SA. Integrasys is a privately owned company specialized in engineering and manufacturing satellite spectrum monitoring systems in the telecommunication and broadcasting markets. Founded in 1990 in Spain, the company has evolved to offer a wide range of signal monitoring products alongside VSAT deployment, maintenance, and link budget solutions for various telecom and satellite service customers. Integrasys provides the industry with the best quality and fastest technology available in carrier monitor systems, with the customer service and care that you, our customers, deserve. Visit the website at www.integrasys-space.com. That's www.integrasys-space.com.
you know, I hadn't been to visit my folks in a while, and you fly into DFW Airport, and you get in a rental car, and you turn on the radio, and just right away, as soon as you hear the DJ talk, you know you're in Texas.
Why?
I thought I'd
What is he
forgotten
saying? Is
about
he
that
talking about?
Texas accent, but yeah, you know you're in Texas.
Yeah. What does a Texas DJ sound like in Dallas? Is he different than an Austin or a Houston or a San Antonio DJ? I'm asking as a Canadian because I don't know.
Well, pretty much all of Texas is pretty similar. Certainly, Dallas and Houston are pretty similar. When you get down into San Antonio around there, you have more of a Mexican Latin influence
Mm.
in the way that they speak. But yeah, you know, they talk about y'all coming to visit, and would you like some iced tea? And
Yeah.
but I gotta say,
I love driving through Texas. And I always had I've always had great meals in Texas, and the people that I've met in Houston have always been so hospitable and warm. It's a great state.
yeah, yeah, and the barbecue is great.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
the barbecue, the steak. It's so good.
So you guys, you both have a lot of experience selling into Mexico. Obviously, you know, Sergio, your Red 52, your company is based in Mexico, and Jose, you've, you know, worked for the bigger operators, you know, mostly dealing in LATAM. How would you say it's different, you know, Mexico versus the rest of LATAM, or Mexico versus the rest of the world? How would you say the attitudes are there towards selling? Is it more a who you know type thing, or is it what you know? Like, how is it different in Mexico versus the rest of the world?
Well, I can say Mexico. I mean, it's a combination of Mexico is located in this geographical point where you're part of Latin America, but then you are part of North America as well. So in some cases, you say, oh, I'm part of North America, but in culturally you are more Latin America. So the way working in Mexico, and I'm from Mexico. I think the relationships are very important. Personal relationships are key. All those good contacts that you develop over the years are very important. People that people that can let you in and get information about projects and things are happening. So that's very important. Mexico, has it's like the rest of Latin America. They have good and bad years. All of a sudden, Mexico is at the top, but all of a sudden, Mexico is at the bottom.
Hmm.
Which right now is happening. Mexico, it's not at the top right now. The country has gone through a lot of political changes, and they're experiencing a lot of issues in terms of businesses, and all companies are struggling.
Hmm.
And right now the situation is not that great. And on top of that, you're adding this COVID-19 crisis, which it's getting even worse. It was bad. Now can you imagine adding that in top? It's just it's not a good place now to do business. So
Yeah. Do you
uh,
concur with that, Sergio? Like, do you?
I do. I agree with everything that Jose said, and I would add that in terms of selling and the process and the science of selling, the Latin Americans very much appreciate visits. They like for you to come to visit, and in fact, there is a very direct proportion to the fact that the further that you travel to see them, the more of an expert you are.
Hmm.
So that also is a component of this.
That's
But
really
yeah,
interesting. I mean, that's I think that has a lot. That's very common in many parts of the world, except in North America and maybe in Europe. I don't think North Americans, or when I say North Americans, I mean Canadians and Americans, in this case, and Europeans. I don't think they really care too much to see you. They don't put as much of a weight on it as maybe the Asian cultures do, or the Latino cultures do. Is that, I mean, is that, do you think that's correct in some ways?
Well, it's like Jose had mentioned that relationships are very important, and it's relationship selling. So when you actually trouble yourself to go and visit someone, they do appreciate it, and it helps cement and promote those close relationships, which even if they don't buy from you today, they may be in a position to buy from you later or recommend you later on. And that's very important. It's very, very important.
There's one thing I see a lot of Jose Alvaro, you're the owner of Integrasys, the company you're working for today. Uh, Alvaro is everywhere all the time, and you can never
Yeah.
miss the guy. He's 6'10" almost. You know, you can't miss him. And the guy is always on the road, and he's always hoofing it, and he's always, you know, glad handing, shaking. You know, not anymore maybe, but he's always there. And I think I'm a big believer in that as well, especially in our business. You have to show up. It's 50% of the battle. You got to show up to your customer sites. You got to show up to the conferences. You got to show up to the trade shows. It's very important, and we shouldn't minimize it. And especially going forward through this bloody crisis, you know, hopefully we can get back to it.
Yeah, no, it's very important, and I think, I mean, talking about Mexico, but I mean, applies for many other countries in the world. Relationships being there, I mean, face to face, it's very important.
Mm. So what kind of, you know, we've already seen and briefly talked about, you know, the OneWeb implosion, and it's already in your case, Sergio, affecting your business. But what kind of ripple effects do you think we would see from this COVID crisis hitting specifically the SatCom markets? Do you guys see anything specific happening in the short run?
Well, I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and as Jose mentioned a little while ago, put that health uncertainty on top of the political uncertainty that there is in many Latin American countries right now, and yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for a little while yet.
Yeah, I think what is happening is maybe there's going to be more, since everybody now is working remotely. I mean, everybody's working from home, or from their location, remote location. They need good connectivity. So I think right now the SATCOM in general, satellite communications, telecommunications, is going to be focused on providing that high-speed connectivity that everybody needs at home. It's very important. I, like, for example, here at home, since I knew that I was going to be stuck here for, like, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, who knows, I upgraded my internet because I needed more bandwidth, because my kid is taking homeschooling. He's using internet. My wife is working from home. She's using the internet. Everybody's using the internet. And then my son, all of a sudden, he's playing video games online, so he's using internet. So everybody's using internet. So I think it requires you will need more bandwidth, but it will be
no,
more.
you don't need more bandwidth. You just need more. You just need a Red 52 connection.
Shameless promotion.
So one of the things is, like, you focus on these opportunities right now that everybody needs more bandwidth, but there are other businesses that maybe are closed and they don't require bandwidth. There are some places that they're closed.
Did you guys read? I wrote about a year ago. I wrote an article, a white paper entitled "The Global Telemedicine Vehicle Network and Why We Should Build One." This is the market that I think, unfortunately, in these situations, where we have these massive disasters, we do tend to do well in the SATCOM business during periods of disaster. So my feeling was, this was, I wrote this almost a year and a half ago. If we built a global telemedicine vehicle network, or just a vehicle network of, say, 100,000 vehicles, which is a lot, I know, but if you built 100,000 vehicles to do primary health care around the world in all the places where there is no connectivity, you have the chance to really, narrow the gap between those who have and those who don't, and especially in terms of providing just basic health care to about 3 billion people who don't currently have it. So maybe, maybe there's a chance that, and I know, Sergio, your dad's still a practicing doctor in his early 90s, right?
Yeah.
And so is he doing any telemedicine? Do you see him working still in that? And do you see the telemedicine side of our business being the one that potentially has the most to benefit from this current global pandemic?
Well, I do, and I strongly believe that telemedicine will be the wave of the future. It's the only way we can reach these 3 billion people. But circling back to your question about my father, he's one of those people that should not have a computer.
you got you got to teach him to make sure, not, if he's going to go to those dirty sites, he has to make sure not click on anything stupid, because that's I believe me, I showed my father-in-law that many years ago. I said, here you go, here's how you hide your bookmarks.
Well, I've been in this business for decades, and still, when I come, when I see my mother, she asks me when I'm going to get a real job.
And does Integrasys have any telemedicine type applications that your product would work towards, or is that not vertical specific, Jose?
Well, no, we do. We get involved in these projects, particularly because we see there are some health projects, telemedicine projects where they need the connectivity. So the way we do it, we provide our systems, are set up, installed in top of the infrastructure. Like, they have the satellite infrastructure, antennas, these modems, all the equipment that makes that happen. Then, our systems sit in top of the infrastructure. So, we are allowed to do the right installation of the systems, and then to monitor that all the sites are working properly. So yeah, I mean, we get involved on that a lot, and lately we've seen an increase on those type of projects. So I completely agree. I mean, right now this is becoming very, very, very important.
We've been involved in disaster response operations for many years. We work with Net Hope and a lot of the other NGOs. Back in 2017, after Hurricane Maria, we did a lot of work in Puerto Rico and in the Caribbean region, getting comms back up. And in fact, in Puerto Rico, we were helping with getting a mobile health network started with some conditioned buses that would go out to some of the rural areas and help. But that kind of thing, and I think what you were talking about in your white paper was more specific in that sense. A hurricane comes, there's disaster, you go in, you provide the connectivity. There's telemedicine and other connectivity needs as well. But speaking specifically of telemedicine, what we're dealing with today is something very different. This is a global problem, and the person that's stuck in a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan needs just as much the telemedicine as a remote village in the jungles of Africa. So
that's true. But the question the question I have is, can we really depend on the governments and the NGOs to get this right? I mean, Sergio, remember when we were in Panama a few years ago, and they took us on a tour they had these huge hangars just filled with equipment, and they had something like $5 million worth of Tamiflu vaccine that was expired, that had to be thrown away, and they had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, according to the guys we were with, just to dispose of it.
Yeah,
they didn't even.
I do remember that was the UNHCR, I think, the United Nations depot. I think there's like 5 or 6 of them around the world. Panama is one of them.
Right.
I was impressed with a lot of the other things that they had there. Yes, they had VSATs there. Yes, they had water purification systems there, and they were even stocking up on body bags.
But can we trust these guys to get it right? I mean, they bought just in this one hangar alone. This left the biggest mark on me. $5 million worth of wasted vaccine that they didn't even use. And granted, maybe it was a bunk vaccine, maybe it was just not a good year for it. Who knows? But I mean, there's so much waste that the governments and the NGOs go through. Can we trust them to get it right? And you deal with these guys a lot. Can we trust them to get it right?
Well, the thing is about that specific example is that you got to have them stockpiled. You have to have a stockpile of medicine, of PPE, of ventilators, of all that type of things. Unfortunately, yeah, most medicines do have expiration dates, but you can't not have them. And the fact that they had them and did not use them, while yes, it was a waste, at the same time, it was a good thing. That means that there was no emergency where they required them. The question, can we trust them? That's a tough question, but I think that's probably the best shot that we have.
We gotta trust that Bill Gates is gonna get the vaccine to cure the COVID-19, right?
Well, have you seen this guy's PR people? Because he's getting beaten up badly all over the interwebs. People think that Bill Gates is now this evil genius who's going to imprint us all with some digital signature virus that has Windows in it or something. And yeah. I mean, have you been reading this stuff? It is off the wall crazy shit constantly all over the interwebs.
It's crazy stuff. Everybody's saying that now he quit Microsoft just to join this new business, and but I mean, I don't know.
The best one I heard was because 5G has just also been getting hammered because some of the conspiracy people have been talking about how 5G is enhancing and accelerating the coronavirus. And the funny one I heard today was Bill Gates, the fifth letter in his name is a G, so 5G. They were just saying it's just crazy. These guys need new PR people.
Yeah,
wow,
yeah. No.
I never realized that.
There you go. Take it to the bank, Sergio. That's gonna be 5G. Bill Gates, fifth letter in his name. Oh my goodness. So with what's going on, the big operators, maybe with the exception of Viasat and Hughes, most of the big three operators have been struggling for some time. Eutelsat, SES, Intelsat. Obviously, the COVID is going to exacerbate that. So, as somebody, Jose, who's worked for all these companies before, and Sergio, as somebody who buys capacity and works with these guys, how do you see them moving forward post this catastrophe? Sergio, go ahead.
That's a good question. They are taking a hit. They were taking a hit on space segment pricing even before the crisis, and I suspect, sadly, that a lot of companies are going to go belly up, not just OneWeb, and that's going to put further pressure on them. I mean, we're down to $1,000 a megahertz recently. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down even more. Long term, I think they're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, I think in general, geo satellite operators, they're going to see a demand in the bandwidth, particularly for some of the consumer applications. We see they're going to require more bandwidth. They're going to be maybe focusing more on the end user rather than other businesses which now don't require connectivity, or they're shut down, completely shut down. So I think geo company like the companies that you mentioned, Drew, like Intelsat, SES, Eutelsat, Telesat, those companies. They're just going to continue. I think they should see an increase in demand. And then obviously now they're just changing the way they're doing business. So they are now selling to the end user, so which is opening new markets for them.
Well, let's. I mean, we're all of us are pretty much more on the data side than anything else, but they're also taking a hit on the video side of this business. There's no football games. There's no basketball games that are being transmitted. There's no Olympics. There's no Tour de France. You know, a lot of these events, sporting events, for example, that would use a lot of bandwidth, are just not transmitting.
Yeah.
So
it's a good point.
They've got to be hurting.
That's a good point. I think maybe we don't even really maybe understand until you start unpacking all of these different industries, the effect that this is having on all the different verticals that we deal with. It's really unbelievable. And I'm just very hopeful that our industry and the rest of the world gets back on its feet, you know, quicker than we hope.
Yeah, completely agree.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys. Well, I think this was a good happy hour. This was a good start for us. Is there? I don't want to keep you guys too long, because I know that this is the SatNuts. You like the name, by the way, SatNuts?
It's very appropriate.
If we get past the first couple, and if people find this interesting and valuable, then we'll keep doing it. Because I enjoy doing it. You know, I had a great conversation with our mutual friend Broom.
Oh yeah.
Broom and Steve Birnbaum at the DC show. We just sat around and we talked. I didn't know that those two guys knew each other, but I knew both of them. And we just talked for like an hour, and we had just this wonderful conversation about the business and about life and about, you know, everything. And I said, you know, this is somewhat something that I think is missing from our industry. Maybe our industry is just a little bit too, you know, uptight or conservative, or it doesn't really have, you know, a loose engaging conversation that we tend to have, you know, in person. But so I was hoping to kind of replicate something like that. That was the only reason why I wanted to bring all of us nuts into one place. And there's a lot of rich characters in our industry, and I'm thankful to know you two guys, and hope we see each other sooner than later.
Are we the premier nuts?
You're one of the early nuts. Yes, you definitely are.
Well, you know, looking forward for, you know, see each other hopefully sooner than later, and you know, hopefully by then the markets will be open again, and we're going to be able to travel, but who knows? I mean, it seems like everything is changing now these days.
Travel, sell, you know, go places, see people, do things, you know, all those things that we're missing out on. Subscribe to SatNuts the podcast. Also rate and review on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, and anywhere fine podcasts are downloaded for free. Audio engineering provided by Ben Klein. Music provided by Bacon Jew. Special thanks to the entire CCOM staff. Stay nuts, everybody.